instrument, since I don't play an instrument. Thank you very much. Is this position good? Is this the right position for the microphone? Okay.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shishi Kishore Kishore Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Premanande.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are continuing with the chapter entitled Lord Ramacandra Rules the World. So it's Canto 9, Chapter 11, and we'll be reading text 8 through 16, and text 16 is on the board. So I'll proceed with doing the Sanskrit and the English translation of each of the texts leading up to text 16. And text 16 we'll chant together. Kadachil loka jignashur gudho ratram alakshita charan vacho shripodramo Varyam Udishya Kashyachit. So the translation for text 8 is, Sukadeva Goswami continued, once, while Lord Ramacandra was walking at night, incognito, hiding himself by a disguise to find out the people's opinion of himself, he heard a man speaking unfavorably about his wife, Sita Devi. Text 9. Naham biparmi tvam dushtam asatim paravishmagam strainohi bibiryat sitaham ramo naham bhaje punaham. The translation for text 9. Speaking to his unchaste wife, the man said, "You go to another man's house, and therefore you are unchaste and polluted. I shall not maintain you any more. A henpecked husband like Lord Ram may accept a wife like Sita, who went to another man's house, but I am not henpecked like him, and therefore I shall not accept you again." Text 10. Iti lokad bahu mukhad dunaradyad asamvidaham patya bitena satyakta prapta prachetasashramam. The translation for text 10. Sukadeva Goswami said, men with a poor fund of knowledge and a heinous character speak nonsensically. Fearing such rascals, Lord Ramacandra abandoned his wife, Sita Devi, although she was pregnant. Thus, Sita Devi went to the ashram of Valmiki Muni. Text 11. Antarvatni agate kale yamo sa shushuve sutao kusholava iti kyayatao tayo chakre kriya munihi. And the translation for text 11. When the time came, the pregnant mother Sita Devi gave birth to twin sons, later celebrated as Lava and Kush. The ritualistic ceremonies for their birth were performed by Valmiki Muni. Text 12. Angadas chitraketushcha Lakshmanasyaatmajao smrito takshaha pushkala iti ashatam bharatasya mahipate. And the translation for text 12. O Maharaj Parikshit, Lord Lakshman had two sons named Angada and Chitraketu, and Lord Bharat also had two sons named Taksha and Pushkala. Text 13 through 14. Subahu Shrutashenascha Satrugnasya Babhu Vatsuhu Gandharvan Kotisho Yagne Bharato Vijaye Disham Tariyam Danam Anya Sarvam Ragne Niyavedayat Satrugnascha Madhu Putram Lavanam Nama Rakshasham Hatva Madhuvane Chakre Maturam Nama Vaipurum. And the translation for text 14, or 13 through 14. Satrugna had two sons named Shubhabu and Shrutasena. When Lord Bharat went to conquer all directions, he had to kill many millions of Gandharvas, who are generally pretenders. Taking all their wealth, he offered it to Lord Ramacandra. Satrughna also killed a Rakshasa named Lavana, who was the son of Madhu Rakshasa. And text 15. Muna nikshipya tanaya sita parthra vivashita jayanti charanao vivartam praviveshaha. And the translation for text 15. Being forsaken by her husband, Sita Devi entrusted her 2 sons to the care of Valmiki Muni. Then, meditating upon the lotus feet of Lord Ramacandra, she entered into the earth. And the purport, which is just 1 sentence. It was impossible for Sita Devi to live in separation from Lord Ramacandra. Therefore, after entrusting her 2 sons to the care of Valmiki Muni, she entered into the earth. And here we are at text 16. Taktrutva Bhagavan Ramo Rundanapi Diya Suchaha Smaratams Tasya Gunams Tamstan Nashaknodrodhum Ishvaraha Taktrutva Bhagavan Ramo Rundanapi Diya Suchaha Smarams Tasya Gunams Tamstan Nashaknodrodhum Ishvaraha Taktrutva Bhagavan Ramo Rundanapi Diya Suchaha Smarams Tasya Gunams Tamstan Nashaknodrodhum Ishvaraha. Please chant. Taktrutva Bhagavan Ramo Rundamapi Diya Suchaha Smarams Tasya Gunams Tamstan Nashaknodrodhum Ishvaraha. Taktrutva Bhagavan Ramo Rundamapi Diya Suchaha Smarams Tasya Gunams Tamstan Nashaknodrodhum Ishvaraha. And the word for word translation. Tat, this, the news of Sita Devi entering the earth. Shrutva, hearing. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ramaha, Lord Ramacandra. Rundan, trying to reject. Api, although. Diyaha, by intelligence. Suchaha, grief. Smaran, remembering. Tasya, of her. Gunan, qualities. Tantan, under different circumstances. Na, not. Ashak not. Was able. Rodhum, to check. Ishvara, although the supreme controller. So I'll read the translation and the purport to text 16. Translation by Srila Prabhupada and purport by Srila Prabhupada. After hearing the news of Mother Sita's entering the earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was certainly aggrieved. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon remembering the exalted qualities of Mother Sita, he could not check his grief in transcendental love. Purport. Lord Ramachandra's grief at the news of Sita Devi's entering the earth is not to be considered material. In the spiritual world also there are feelings of separation, but such feelings are considered spiritual bliss. Grief in separation exists even in the absolute, but such feelings of separation in the spiritual world are transcendentally blissful. Such feelings are a sign of tasya prema vashyatva svabhava, being under the influence of Ladini Shakti and being controlled by love. In the material world, such feelings of separation are only perverted reflection. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Ramapada Swami Iti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namaha. Is it possible to turn the fan off? Thank you very much. Sorry, I've got a slightly damp garment. It's not working perfectly. So, okay. Sukadev Goswami states in a very concise way, and these are his words: fearing such rascals, Lord Ramachandra abandoned his wife Sita Devi, although she was pregnant. So this was from text 10. And the idea that was born by a particular rascal that we hear being recounted by Sukadev Goswami is given that his wife had gone to another man's house, and so he considered her unchaste and polluted. These were his words. Now, Sita is one such wife who went to another man's house, so that's the logic. We hear that in text 9. So this idea is communicated to Sita by Lord Ramachandra. So in this account, we're hearing what Lord Ramachandra has overheard, this idea, and then he himself in turn communicates that idea to Sita. So it's actually very painful, and I'm going to read Lord Ramachandra's words to Sita. I crossed safe the ocean of battles, thanks to the valor of my friends. But do not delude yourself with the fond thought that all of this was for you. I come of the spotless line of Ikshvaku. Peerless am I in fame. it behooves me to discharge my duty as a Kshatriya. I should wash myself white off the black ill fame that is cast upon me. You dwelt in the house of Ravana, the wicked one. Hence, your life there is open to suspicion. The man with the sore eye cannot stand a bright light, and I do not brook your standing before me. It pains me much. And Lord Ramacandra, being reflective even of what he's saying, says, the simile is infinitely suggestive. The blame falls upon the diseased eye and not upon the light. The cloud hangs heavy over the heart of Ram and not upon the lady Sita. Do not stand in my presence. I have no use for you. The wide world is open to you. You have my leave to go your way. So these are the words of Lord Ramacandra communicating that same idea to Sita Devi. So it's extremely painful to hear. And he continues, know you. So he's justifying the words he's just spoken and continuing the idea that he's communicating to her. He says, know you of anyone coming of a lofty line, endowed with matchless valor and fame, nay, calling himself a man, know you of anyone who would take back unto himself his wedded wife, who stayed for 10 long months at the home of another, an impotent victim of his strength and power? Ravana carried you away on his lap. He devoured you with his burning looks of lust. Come of the unsullied line of Ikshvaku, should I take you back? The meanest creature that crawls on the face of the earth would cry in derision and scorn. Fie, fie, I recovered you from the enemy only to safeguard the tradition of my line and self-respect, and it has brought me high credit. My heart has no place for you, not the least. Do not take it that I am moved by anger to fling these words at you. Go where you will. This is my carefully and calmly considered decision. And this is from Udakanda 1587. So these were Lord Ramachandra's exact words to Sita, communicating the idea that Sukadev Goswami states here that Lord Ramacandra had heard that same idea being expressed, some suspicion being cast on Sita Devi, and he actualizes the idea and verbally communicates the idea to Sita and tells her that he's carefully considered his decision. She can go her own way. So now, if we were to look at this, Lord Ramacandra has highlighted Ravana's sinful character by pointing out Ravana's devouring looks of lust. And indeed, in the form of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead states that it is lust, which is born from the contact with the material mode of passion. It is, in fact, the all-devouring sinful enemy of the entire world. So it's not exclusive to Ravana. It's something existing everywhere. And then if we look at Ravana more closely, we see that he was caught completely in the material mode of passion because of the great effort he was putting into trying to gratify his desires. And this is a definition of the mode of passion that you find in the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter. It's particularly the great effort that one is going to gratify one's desires. So I'm going to once again read, because it seems necessary, because it's such a heavy topic, and it kind of expands the whole picture. I want to read a description of Ravana, something of this being caught in this material mode of passion, so determined is he to gratify his desires. So this is a description that's, again, there's something very shocking about it, because it shows something of how he's completely possessed by lust. So here's the description, and this is from Ramacandra. The mighty lord of the isle was, this is referring to Ravana, was called back to the world of mortals by the sweet sound of auspicious music, vocal and instrumental, that ushered in a new day. So he's just woken up. His first thoughts on waking were of Sita, to whom he had lost his heart, and whose lovely image filled it ever. His dress and decorations, all loose and disordered, endowed with strength and pride beyond the wildest reach of imagination, yet he was a slave to his unholy lust after Sita. So he rose from his bed, and in his royal disorder, he took his way to the Ashok grove, through the roads that threaded the gardens, rich and brilliant with gold and gems. So here we have, what's the first thing he does upon awakening? Gets up and starts heading to the Ashok grove where Sita Devi is. And then even more painful in some sense, we get a description. He's not traveling alone. This is how the recount is. Many of his wives are following him. And this is the description. Even as nymphs of heaven attend upon Lord Indra, some went before him with golden lights. Some waved soft charis by his side. Some fanned him gently. Some bore goblets and flagons of gold. Some bore swords and other weapons. Some carried stools, seats, and settees. There was a lady among them who bore a gem-encrusted jar of gold, sweet-flavored wine. This is all first thing in the morning. And then walked behind him another noble lady with a royal umbrella set in a rod of gold and casting a bright sheen all around like a lordly swan or the moon in its full. Like streaks of lightning in a cloud, the ladies of Ravana went with him, their eyes heavy with sleep, their limbs adorned with curious patterns in sandal, aloe, and other perfumes, their ornaments in wild disorder, their hair flowing loose around them, and tiny beads of perspiration on their brows, like delicate dewdrops on the blown petals of flowers. They walked with unsteady gait, under the influence of wine and sleep. So this is Ravana proceeding. And almost embarrassingly enough, having his entire entourage of wives walking with him, carefully tending to him as he's making his way to Sita. So they're performing their duty even though they know Sita's arrival, so to speak. So now, Lord Ramacandra had stated that Sita Devi was an impotent victim of Ravana's strength and valor. So I thought, well, let's look at this. And we find Ravana addressing Sita in a way, so I've first seen what she's going to be responding to. He addresses her in a way, he comes to the Ashok Grove to impress upon her the noble nature of his love. But naturally we know there's a hollowness to his statements. And the real reason that Ravana shows some kind of forbearance towards Sita is that Lord Brahma had put a curse upon him, that his head would be shattered to pieces if he dared to repeat a previously performed very heinous sinful action, and that was that he'd actually laid violent hands upon a heavenly nymph of the name Punji Kastala. So, and that's the reason his statements have a hollow ring to them, because in the background is this curse from Lord Brahma upon him. So he appears to, be very noble in his statements, but hanging over him is the curse. So here are some of the statements that Ravana makes to Sita. Ah, how lovely are your eyes and large. So bear in mind, this is all in the company of his wives. How perfect and auspiciously fashioned are your limbs. What charms have you in yourself that would draw out to your feet the heart and soul of all created beings? I have lost my soul unto you. I entreat you to have pity upon me, else I die. What terror possesses you at the sight of myself? So he's able to be quite reflective, because he's seen the reality of Sita's emotional state. What terror possesses you at the sight of myself? I see none hereabouts, men or rakshasas, that could take any form as will to inspire this unspeakable dread and horror in your heart. Take it from me as truth. That is a natural instinct and law among rakshasas to take unto themselves the woman from the homes of others by force, if necessary. But do you not see that I wish such an advantage over others? To put an iron restraint upon my nature, for I will not lay an unwilling hand upon you, but will wait until love draws you unto myself. And it must be such a love that defies time and space and holds nothing higher than itself. So this is Ravana speaking to Sita, trying to come across as having a very noble character. That he's not going to apply force, but he's going to wait for love to come from her naturally for him. So these are the statements Ravana is making. And this is the same entity who had come in the absence of her husband in the disguise of a sannyasi we heard in a previous class, and had kidnapped her. So I just saw a blip because I don't read any of the news, because I know then it'll become a constant thought in my mind. But there's the leader of North Korea makes it a habit to go into the high schools in the country and selectively picks out young girls that I guess have physical beauty, and they actually then become part of his harem. So there's an example of a contemporary demon doing very much what Ravana was engaged in. It's kind of abducting, in the case of the North Korean leader, young woman, and in the case of Ravana, another man's wife in his absence. So, and he's addressing her as though she's not married at all, and he's just going to wait for her to willingly succumb to his noble being. So Now, I'm speaking all this because of what has transpired that we've read that is so extraordinary, just so that we get in the background something of the experience of Sita Devi and something of what she's actually had to deal with and go through. Now, Sita Devi's response indicates how far she actually is from being powerless and helpless. And it has to do with, being so firmly grounded in her devotion to Ram. And so she responds to Ravana. So it's not the picture of a powerless and helpless entity. She says, "Oh, Ravana, cast away from your heart the desire for my poor self and place it where it is due to your lawful wives. The worst of sinners dare not raise his eyes to the bliss of heaven. I was born in the line of the Videha kings, to whom the mystery of Brahman was an open book. I was married in the race of the sun, whose spotless purity of heart and life was a household word. Lord Ram, the Lord and Master of the worlds above and below, is my wedded husband. Never have I, even in my wildest dreams, clouded my heart with the thought of another man. Shall I soil myself with a black deed of shame that the lowest and the most abandoned of men turn away from with contempt? I'm a devoted wife. I'm the wife of another. I am no meet wife for you. Let me go, following the footsteps of the great and the good. Now I will apply the role to yourself and ask you." So she's very logical. She presents her position and then she throws out a question to Ravana. "Do you not watch your wives with jealous care, that even the slightest breath of heaven may not visit their faces? Even so, other husbands guard their wives from the lustful eyes of others. Do you hold it wrong? Why cannot you bring yourself to find happiness and delight in the arms of your wives, who love you heart and soul, and are ready to carry out your slightest wishes?" So it's very clear that she's trying to draw Ravana's attention to where he needs to repose his desires and where he needs to actually look for his happiness. If a man finds no delight in the company of his wives, if he allows lust to blind his eyes and rob him of his senses, if he runs after the wives of others, it may seem to him at that time very good and healthy, but take it from me that in the end it will blast his life, his health, his spiritual luster, his wife and children, and his hopes hereafter. So she makes a generalized statement for what will be the consequence of Ravana proceeding with the course of action that he's planning to proceed with. And I find it interesting in our contemporary times, at least going back 20 or 25 years, because it was very much a public thing. The British monarchy has a prince, this Prince Charles, and he was already older, I think like 30, and he took a very young wife of 19 or so, at least I think it was that age. But he had already had some kind of relations with another woman prior to his marriage, and at some point in his marriage he took up that relationship again. And so and that woman was a married woman. And indeed, something of like Sita's statement of what are the consequences of proceeding with this course of action, of delighting in the company of or running after the wives of others, that in the end it will blast his life, his health, his spiritual luster, his wife and children. What happened in that particular case is, I mean, there's a certain drama to it, but also a certain tragedy, because it's, in our contemporary society, it's not the practice to have many wives. So the princess Diana of this Prince Charles actually suffered greatly, that it took the form of not being able to retain any food stuff that she took in. So the woman was wasting away, and then it's led to a kind of breakdown in the marriage. And as is the norm in our society, even though it's forbidden in the monarchy that there's ever divorce, this was the first prince to have done that. So, you know, our society is degrading. So the prince divorced his wife, and there were 2 young boys, and anyway, soon after that, the woman had a major accident and was killed instantly, or the princess was killed instantly. So the repercussion was that the 2 young boys grew up without a mother, and there's an account by the younger of the 2 princes that this Prince Harry, that for something like 10 years he completely suppressed his feelings, and then somewhere in his late 20s he became aware of the fact that he actually was carrying a huge amount of grief that he'd never really resolved from the sudden loss of his mother, the princess. So he had to go through quite a lot of sorting out and putting in order, you know, his, I guess, mental and emotional state. So Sita Devi's statement to Ravana of what will be the consequence of his continuing his course of action, I thought, you know, is very much exemplified even in our contemporary society by that small example of Prince Charles and his inability to be loyal to his young wife. Now, we see even further strength on the part of Sita Devi, because she draws Ravana's attention to the necessity of seeking counsel. So she says to him, so this is, Sita Devi's in a very weak condition. We hear that she's taking only water, she's kind of wasting away, but there's no lack of strength in terms of her addressing Ravana. She says, "Is there none to stay your hand from perpetrating foul injustice? I should wrong Vibhishan, Malyavan, and others if I say so. So shall I decide that you have not waited upon them, touched their feet in humble reverence, and drunk the fountain of wisdom and duty?" So she's seen the implication that Ravana hasn't taken any good counsel. She's just saying this must be the case, because it can't be a reflection on their character, it has to be on a reflection on his, and that he's failed to take advantage of the wisdom of his counselors. Now, there's an interesting prohibition that's mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. And this is in a discussion where Rukmi is going to give his granddaughter to the grandson of his enemy, meaning Lord Krishna is the enemy of Rukmi, but he's going to give his granddaughter, Rochana, to the grandson of Lord Krishna, Aniruddha. So now there's an interesting prohibition in that case, and the prohibition is that one should not execute religious injunctions if they will obstruct one's journey to heaven or if they will be odious to human society. So in that particular case, naturally, Rukmi viewed that marriage as irreligious, being of a more demoniac nature. But in actual fact, it would have been something that opened up his spiritual progress, because it is the grandson of Lord Krishna. So even though there's this religious injunction that one shouldn't do anything that will obstruct, even if it's of a religious nature, that will obstruct one's progress, religious progress, and if it will be odious to human society, it's actually a principle that can be put aside, because there's, when it comes to following a basic principle in spiritual life, and that is that one should never give up spiritual principles, even if it's not popular with the world. So at the present time, let's say it may not be so popular to stay within a marital relationship. It's accepted that if that marital relationship breaks down in some way, one can then abandon the spouse. That's the accepted norm. But the spiritual principle naturally is that which isn't so popular, is that one remains loyal and one continues to perform one's duties, whatever the difficulties in the relationship. So, and because the last word in spiritual duties is to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So whatever the difficulties through the performance of one's duties, one perseveres because one is attempting to surrender to the Supreme Lord through performing one's duties. And now that takes precedence over any secondary injunction. And this is Krishna Sarvadharma Parityaja Mamikam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sava Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Matsuchaha. So 1866 Bhagavad Gita. So Sita has been emphasizing to Ravana the necessity of accepting a religious principle, of not pursuing the wives of others. And also, she's drawing his attention to one of the processes of religion, which is that, you know, being in the position of a king, he needs to know the different orders and statuses of social life, and the necessity of taking counsel. And particularly, she's drawing his attention to Vibhishan. And on her side, she's been described as being worn out to a shadow. That is actually her condition. Through her fasting and the fact that she's carrying so much care and fear. And in fact, the description is that her heart has been a stranger to joy, and that the only thing she was receiving was water. That was the only care she received. But at the same time, she's described as having ever raised clasped hands of prayer to the deity of her choice, that her Ram lay low the cruel Ravana in battle. So that was the only supplication she constantly had. And she's described as being of spotless purity of thought, word, and deed. So Ravana, on the other hand, is described as being wicked, since he sought to seduce Sita's heart and to cast a veil over her soul by soft and sweet words, glowing hopes, and promise, through which ran a vein of deceit and pride. So through not following a scriptural injunction, Ravana took the shortest route to his own ruin and destruction. And he did not know that Sita followed the same laws of life that Sri Ram said to himself, and that in fact she was torn with grief at being so cruelly separated from Ram's side. So Ravana was oblivious to this because he's not following the same standards, so therefore he has no insight into the emotional state of Sita Devi. And taking into account that he's caught up in the material mode of passion, just looking to putting in all this effort to gratify his desires, he can't have an understanding of emotions on the transcendental plane. And here, what we've looked at today is that the feelings of separation that Lord Ram experiences at the departure of Sita are considered to be akin to spiritual bliss because the feelings are reciprocal. So he's not alone in his feelings of separation from Sita, and she's not alone in her feelings of separation. There's a reciprocal relationship and reciprocal feelings. So Ladini Shakti is the energy which gives, and this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is what Srila Prabhupada says, those feelings of separation actually are on the spiritual plane. It's Ladini Shakti, or Ladini is an energy which gives pleasure to Krishna and nourishes his devotees. So you can see the reciprocal part. Krishna is getting pleasure, or Lord Ramacandra is getting pleasure, and his devotees nourished. So Sita is actually being nourished by those feelings of separation. So this is due to the fact that Lord Ramacandra and Lord Krishna, they're attracted by devotional service. So the constant meditation on the form of Lord Ramacandra by Sita Devi, and it's mentioned here that prior to her entering into the earth, she's meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Ramacandra. So Lord Ramacandra is attracted by that devotional service of Sita, and a potency overcomes him that has to be spiritual because he can't be touched by material darkness. It's just by definition that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is impervious to any material darkness. So that which overcomes him, or Lord Ramacandra here we read, is purely spiritual due to the reciprocal nature of devotional service. So just if we were to look at it in perspective, Lord Ramacandra's spiritual energy, and same with Lord Krishna, it is of three kinds, but they're considered to be one. So the Ladini Shakti spiritual strength is his pleasure-giving spiritual strength. Then there's the Samvit Saktika potency, which is his cognitive spiritual strength. And then there's the Sandini Shakti, which is his existential spiritual strength. So in this particular case, what's been highlighted through all this torturous exchange and something of the extreme distress, looking externally at Sita dealing with this demoniac entity, so deceitful and oblivious even to normal moral codes, is that actually both her and Lord Ramacandra are in a position of great spiritual strength. They're actually being nourished by the separation from each other, which is so contrary to normal material separation. Normal material separation, there would just be the wasting of the body and nothing to sustain life. But in this case, the sustenance is coming from the separation because it is that Ladini, or that spiritual strength, which is actually giving pleasure. So the separation is giving pleasure. So it's actually sustenance of their lives. So this is some very simple thoughts on this matter. If there's any further thoughts to expand our discussion.
My question is, I understood that Sita got on a celestial airplane and went back to the spiritual world, and there's this description. I was wondering what the difference is, if there was some, because I heard that story. Is it just told differently sometimes? now I hear that she entered into the earth. So do you know which it was, or did she go on the celestial airplane later, or was that just a different rendition of the story?
Well, what we're reading here in the Srimad Bhagavatam is Srila Sukadeva Goswami doing a kind of abbreviated version of the entire Ramayana pastime. And in fact, it's rather extraordinary because even like one statement by Sukadeva Goswami, if one looks at the Valmiki Ramayana, it can actually span pages and pages and pages and pages. So it's a realized personality. So we just take it that what he's stating is by those that are completely free of any, what would be the word? I guess it's been seen by persons that are completely attuned to their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that's the case with Sukadeva Goswami. So he's seeing with spiritual vision, so we accept that what he's recounting is exact and correct. And then in terms of other versions that may describe Sita Devi as ascending to the spiritual world in one of those flower aeroplanes, it's probably equally accurate. I don't think that there's discrepancy when one looks at like slight differences in narrations, because the person recounting is seeing in terms of their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we just accept both.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the discrepancy. That doesn't really disturb me. I'm just wondering, the difference between Sita going back to the spiritual world in an airplane and going into the earth, that's a big difference. So I'm just wondering for my own mind which one it was. So, but we don't really know, do we?
Well, there's no separation in either case, because even in this description, and that was the point, that the relationship is on a transcendental plane. So in actual fact, Sita and Lord Ramacandra are not separated. They, there's a kind of pleasure, the pleasure-giving potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a transcendental relationship is such that there's a connection, eternal connection, and that is present, and both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotee, in this case Sita Devi, are fully cognizant of the pleasure within the relationship. So there's, even in the separation, that relationship continues.
I remember Maharaj Ramapada Swami was giving a class last time I was here, that the Ramaya was given before the actual pastime took place. So that could be a reason for any discrepancy. But I was just wondering which it was. But I guess I won't get the answer here today.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well.
I mean, one just has to accept both.
Yeah.
And it's according to how the relationship is with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the particular personality who's recounting is being permitted to see in a particular way. So over here, it was also explained by Sharam Swami that the brevity or the conciseness of the narration, even being commented upon by Srila Prabhupada, who's in the same disciplic line as Sukadeva Goswami, is very brief. He doesn't expand. Like, I've read a lot from Valmiki Ramayana, but here Sri Swami had explained that Srila Prabhupada doesn't expand so much on the narration because he just highlights the main message or the main, I guess, teaching that needs to be communicated. So that is what the purpose is even of how Sukadev Goswami is narrating what he's narrating. It's to bring home a very important fundamental principle. Another question, where can one purchase a copy of the Ramayana? Does the BBT publish the Ramayana? I don't know, but there's a website that's maintained, if one searches Valmiki Ramayana ISKCON. And that is very precise and exact. The language is a little bit archaic, but it's very tremendous. And that's the accepted narration. Because apparently some of, even within that narration, and this is from Sri Swami too, he had stated that there's a little hint of impersonalism somewhere through the course of it, but Srila Prabhupada accepted that version. So because we're following in the disciplic succession, we take that as the correct version of the narration. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your kind attention. I very much appreciate it, especially since there was a lot of reading. Thank you. Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.